Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today we're improvising and we're gonna try to make some vegan KATSU curry croquettes. So let's get started. The thing is that I baked some pumpkin some days ago. I made a ton of pumpkin soup and I still had some pumpkin left. So I decided to try to make this recipe. And this probably already exists, but I tried to find recipes to get inspired by and I couldn't find exactly what I had in mind. So there's probably already something there, but I don't know how it's called. So that's why probably I couldn't find it, but we're gonna do it my way, which is improvising. And again, as always, the ingredients of the recipe are gonna be down in the description of the video so you can check quantities and everything there. The pumpkin that I have is already cooked. I baked it for 30 minutes, just cut into pieces, some oil on top. I bake it in the oven. And what I'm gonna do is prepare some KATSU curry sauce, the way that I've always done it, which I'm not sure if it's the perfect way, but that's how I always do it. And for this we have some chopped garlic and ginger and some onion. And we're gonna start by frying the onion for about 5 minutes because we want it to get really soft and tender. And then we're also gonna add the garlic and the ginger. And we're gonna let this cook for at least 2 more minutes. And meanwhile, we're gonna prepare the spices. We're gonna put some salt, some curry powder and garam masala. And then the recipe calls for applesauce, but I don't buy applesauce, I've never had. So what I do is that I boil some apple and then I blend it. But this time I made it in the microwave and it's the same and really easy. Put it in the microwave for 4 or 5 minutes, and in this case, as I'm gonna blend everything later, I'm just gonna put the apple as it is in the pieces, and with the rest I'm gonna blend it and freeze it. And if you want more tips about this, you can check my freezer tour because I tell a lot of tips and things that I do and freeze. And then we need some tonkotsu sauce or barbecue. If you don't have that, that's what I use to substitute it. And then some cocoa powder, and yes, chocolate. We're putting chocolate in it. I don't know, I saw it in a recipe super long ago and I've always added it and it's really nice. And I also added a tiny bit more salt because I thought it wasn't enough. And then also some flour because that's gonna help the thickness of the mixture. And once it's mixed, we're gonna add the pumpkin and the broth. I ate about 1 cup, 1.5 cups of broth, depending how much onion and pumpkin you have. And here the order doesn't really matter. What I did is that I blended it first and then I added the flour, but if you want to add the flour first and then blend it, it's also fine. And I'm gonna let it boil for 3-5 minutes more so it gets thick, and then we're gonna take it out and we're gonna save it in the fridge. We're gonna put it in a container or a platter, whatever you prefer, and we're gonna put it in the fridge for at least 3-4 hours because it needs to get really cold. And what I did is that I put it overnight and now we're gonna take it out. Okay, here it is. What I'm gonna do is prepare here the things to roll them in the breadcrumbs and everything. Okay, so here we're gonna need some breadcrumbs. It should be panko, but I couldn't find it on the grocery store that I usually go to, so I have normal breadcrumbs, but if you can find panko, that's better. So I have some homemade breadcrumbs here. And then for the egg, we're gonna add some flour. And I think I'm gonna add a little bit of flaxseed, but I don't think that's necessary. And some salt. And I'll add almond milk. And sweetened almond milk. Let a little bit and mix everything first. So we'll take a spoon here and put it in flour first. I saved the ones that were ready in the freezer and now I ran out of breadcrumbs, so I'm gonna do what I usually do, that it's flaxseed and almond flour. I'm gonna put them in the freezer because I don't want to cook them right now because I feel like they're gonna melt, so I prefer them to be frozen when I put them in the oil. So things, it's better if you roll them first in flour and then you put it in the milk and then on the breadcrumbs. And another problem that I had is the milk mix that I made. It was too dense, so it needs to have more milk and just a little bit of flour because that's gonna make it easier. But yeah, those were the problems and the things that I changed. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that in the freezer and I'll check with you when we fry them. Okay, it's been about an hour. I put the oil to boil again and we're gonna take our croquettes out from the freezer because they're not completely frozen, but they're hard enough for me to boil them. Here we have our croquettes. They're at least more solid. And here I have the oil, which we're gonna know when it's ready, when we put our spatula and the bubbles start rising to the top. That's because our oil is hot enough. And I'm gonna prepare a plate with some kitchen paper so we can put them here once they're ready and it will absorb the oil. It would also be better if the oil was covering the croquettes completely, but my pan is too big to use that much oil. I think I'm also gonna try to put some of the ones that I made with almond flour. These ones are not frozen at all, I just had them in the fridge, so we'll see. Okay, the almond flour ones are not melting at all, which is amazing. So that means that the consistency of our dough was perfect and that you don't need to freeze them basically. That's the ones that have almond on the border and even flour, like the last ones. I didn't want to throw the dough, so I rolled them in some flour and just like plain flour. And look at this, flour, milk and flour. But yeah, here's how the ones with breadcrumbs look. They smell delicious, they look really nice, and that's how they look inside. It's a little bit tedious to roll them and all this process, but the rest was really easy to make. So I really hope you like it and I hope you try them out. And if you made it this far, give a like to the video if you liked it, because that really helps the channel, and subscribe if you want to see more, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram because I'm posting a lot of recipes there too. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Okay, I'm gonna put them all in the freezer, leave them for 1 hour so they are more frozen.